Hi, everyone. Welcome to Theories of Career Development. I'm Diane Moore, and I'll be your professor for the course this semester. This is the first of weekly lectures you'll be reviewing throughout the course. This video reviews Chapter 1 in the textbook, which is required reading for Week 1. In this introduction, we want to consider a couple of important points. The first is that career counseling and personal counseling often go hand in hand. You really can't separate the two. Personal issues often influence career issues, and vice versa. As an example, imagine someone who has worked in an occupation for most of their life, maybe in the nursing field, and they really enjoyed that work, but they've now become injured and they can no longer continue in that occupation. In this case, the personal issue of injury directly affects the individual's ability to continue in a career they loved. You can see how this overlap between personal and career issues can occur. If you're working with a client who can't continue in a career they loved, it's likely they'll be anxious, upset, worried, and perhaps even very sad. As a practitioner, you need to understand that personal and career issues interact and affect one another. You're not going to be doing in-depth therapy with your clients, of course, but if a client is having these strong feelings, you do need to know how to manage that. You can't separate those feelings out and say, I'm sorry you're sad about losing your job, but I'm only here to help you write a resume. So again, you're not providing therapy, but you need to know how to manage these issues as they interact with the client's career concerns. So one of the things that you'll be doing this course is learning skills to help you work with clients. The same skills are required for both personal and career counseling. And these are fundamental skills taught in nearly any program in the helping professions. You may have had some exposure to these skills if you've taken other types of programs or other types of training. They include things like active listening, empathy, reflection of feeling, summarizing, and so on. You're going to learn these skills in the needs assessment course, and you'll continue building on them throughout the program. Many approaches used in career counseling are adapted from personal counseling. So, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy or solution-focused counseling, those were originally introduced in the personal counseling arena, but we have now adapted them and used them quite often in the career development field. These approaches are all grounded in a variety of theories. In this course, you will learn commonly used theories that are essential to understand as a foundation, as well as newer theories in the field. I'd like you to pause here just for a moment and consider, why do you need to know about theories in career development? Why is it important to have knowledge of these frameworks? Can't we just sit down, talk with the client and chit chat, find out their concerns, and then give them some advice? The short answer is no, that is not actually what we do. Many people enter this field believing they're good at giving advice and think that skill will translate directly into this profession. However, working without a clear theoretical framework or a process can cause issues for both the practitioner and the client. At this point, I'd like you to just pause the lecture and watch a short video clip that I have posted under week 1. The link is there. You can't click on it here in this presentation, the link, but you can go to the PowerPoint file and click on it there, or just pick it up as the link posted under week 1. It shows someone who recently lost their job and highlights how people might attempt to generate career options without a structured process. So please take a moment. It's just a couple of minutes long. Please stop here and go to that link and just take a couple of minutes to watch it. So after watching this video, consider this question. How effective was this approach in helping George make career decisions? George and his friend Jerry were randomly generating ideas without any kind of process or method for organizing them. This is often the state clients are in when they come to see you. They may have many ideas, but no way to sort through them or to set goals effectively. So theories provide a framework for understanding a client's career-related issues and can help build your capacity as a career development practitioner, while also providing the client with a clear process for working through to set some specific goals and find employment or make a career choice. It also helps you to build your capacity to select appropriate tools and approaches to fit the needs of diverse clients. One size does not fit all. We need to have a range of approaches, and understanding these theories also helps you to know which tools and approaches are grounded in valid and beneficial concepts for clients. In other words, we don't use the same tool for every client. We don't make it up as we go along or just apply one specific approach because we happen to like it. We select tools and approaches with the intention to benefit the client, not just because we like a specific tool or approach or we know it the best. Some other important principles that we need to keep in mind as we begin looking at theories and how they might apply in counseling processes or with our clients is that we do not tell our clients what to do. We may think we have a good idea of what they should do, but we want to collaborate with the client and allow them to participate in the decision-making process of how they're going to proceed. We do not tell them what they should do. We do not try to coerce them into doing a specific action that we think they should follow. Quite often, when we feel strongly that the client should be doing this or that, it's based on our own set of values, our own beliefs, or our own preferences. And so we do not impose those things on our clients. And we'll explore this idea a lot more in this course and many of the other courses. We embrace the principle that clients are experts on themselves. We can never know all of their life experiences. They'll share snapshots of their experiences, but sometimes clients will even hold back information from us. So we need to realize that we can never understand all of their experiences and that they are entitled to make their own choices and their own decisions. And this refers to the ethical principle of autonomy, which we'll explore a bit more when we get into the ethics course later in the program. Another important principle, and I'm sorry that's cut off a little bit at the bottom, is that we need to be where the client is, not rush them to where we would like them to be. Going back to the idea of validating the client's feelings, we may, want to help them to feel better if they are sad or upset or distraught about their job loss, for example. We want them to feel better. But we can't rush them into that. And often validating their feelings and experiences first then helps them to quite often move on from there, providing them with some tools to see how they can set goals and move forward and, useful resources. All of that may help the client to move on, but we can't rush them to where we would like them to be. We can't say to them, don't feel sad, don't be upset, don't be worried, we're going to help you here. That usually is not going to help the client to let go of those feelings. So take a moment to validate how they're feeling, and then we can move on from there. And again, you will learn how to do this in particular in the needs assessment course. It's also important to consider the client's motivational level. Are they ready to change? Are they ready to take action? And again, emotions may be getting in the way, and that's why we need to stop and validate those feelings. So your role may involve helping them decompress and express their emotions before moving forward. You will be learning to use skills, tools, and approaches with intention in this course and others. And as you progress through the program, you will learn many different methods. Your job is to select what best meets the client's needs, not what you personally prefer. Another important fundamental is being aware of your own worldview and social location in relation to the client. Your experiences are not universal. Clients come with their own cultural, social, and psychological contexts, and your ethical obligation is to present a non-judgmental, unbiased, and open approach to all clients. This is not optional or only to be applied to certain clients. Now, there's a lot we could unpack there, and you're going to be exploring all of these ideas throughout the course when you take the diversity course, when we look at ethics and so on. But these are important principles to keep in mind as we work through this course. Applying ethical standards ensures that you use theories, tools, approaches, and skills in a responsible and consistent manner to promote client autonomy and empowerment. Again, a very important principle in the work that we do. And we embrace the concept, which some of you may have seen in relation to the medical profession, of doing no harm. This connects with the idea of anti-oppressive practice, which means we incorporate an understanding of different types of privilege, including our own, into our counseling practice. Privilege can be related to gender, race, disability, class, sexual orientation, and many other factors. So one example here is that we never assume heterosexuality in our clients. Perhaps you're working with a client who appears to present as male, uses the pronouns he, him, and the client mentions that they are married. And you say, oh, what does your wife do for work? Now, you've made a huge assumption there, and in fact, have led the client to feel not included as part of your framework. And so we want to be very, very careful as we're working with clients in understanding their context and not making any assumptions. And again, we will explore a lot of these ideas through the diversity course, the ethics course, and many others throughout the program. So, looking at the idea of theories within the career development field, of course, the theory is a group of logically organized laws or relationships or a framework and concepts that constitute explanation in a discipline. Pretty much every helping profession, many other types of professions, you'll find that there are theoretical frameworks behind each of them. In the career development field, theories attempt to explain behavior that occurs throughout one's lifetime in relation to school, work, life experiences, and social experiences. You'll find many of the theories we're going to look at in this course will provide you with concepts to help not just yourself, but the client to understand what they're experiencing. As one example, you may have a client who comes at midlife and they have to change careers and they're very confused and they may say, gee, I should have this all figured out by now. But career development theory provides frameworks to understand that quite often we do at midlife get confused about what we want to do next and that idea of who we want to be when we grow up. So theories can be very useful for helping you and clients to understand and do what's called normalizing their experiences. These are experiences that many people have, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. And you're going to help them understand what they're experiencing and find a way to move forward. Your client populations will be very diverse. You will have clients from all walks of life, all cultures, all experiences. So your theories of personality and counseling and career development should be eclectic. They should be that word just means having a broad range, kind of a mix of all different types of things, having a lot of tools in your theoretical tool belt. But you also want to consider the theory's ease of application in your sessions with your clients and using any accompanying tools. For example, I am certified in use of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. It's an excellent tool for understanding oneself, but it's also somewhat complicated. It has 16 different descriptions, many different types of ideas and concepts that some clients may find the wording, the terminology a little bit difficult to understand, and it's a tool that does take a lot of time. I've done it quite a bit in workshops. I've only occasionally done it individually with clients when we have pretty much unlimited time. And you'll find working in the field that quite often you will only have a limited amount of time with your clients. So that might not be a tool that would work particularly well for you in sessions with your clients. Some important final summary notes. All theories and related tools must be applied ethically with consideration for diverse needs of clients, gender, culture, social location, and so on, in conjunction with the counseling skills you will learn in other courses. And also, you will supplement that with specialized knowledge of sources of occupational information and many other concepts and ideas you'll learn through the program. One theory, tool, or approach does not fit all, as I said. There's an old expression, if you only use a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So the more tools that you have in your tool belt, the more theories and frameworks and concepts and so on that you have, the better you will be able to respond to the needs of your diverse client groups. Now, there are many theories that could be covered, quite a few. You will see a handout posted under week 1 showing categories of theories as they're presented in the textbook. We will not be able to cover all these theories in the course, but these are theories. The handout shows you the theories you will need to know about if you plan to ultimately, somewhere down the road, take the exam to obtain the National CCDP Certified Career Development Practitioner certification. We will do our best to cover the basics in this course that you will need, especially when you start to go out working in practicum. These are theories that will dovetail very nicely with other concepts that you'll be learning and frameworks you'll be learning throughout the program. And ultimately, you will aim to use theories in combination, and that idea is covered in Chapter 16, which we'll look at later in the course. So some homework for this week, for week 1, please watch the videos with the welcome message and other documents posted under the welcome and course introduction on D2L. Read chapters 1 and 2 in the Scharf textbook, and I should have noted here that there's also a video lecture that you will need to watch for chapter 2. Please review the course outline if you haven't already done that, and other materials posted there. And attend the synchronous orientation session if you can, or if we're already past it's being held on Monday, January 12th. Monday of the very first week. If you're watching this and you've already missed that, that's okay. You will find that there is a recording posted that you can view. And then please take time to post your introduction in D2L Brightspace on the designated bulletin board. This is not graded, but you are encouraged to do that as a way to interact with your clients. So thanks very much for watching. After you've taken a break, please go on and watch video number 2, which is part of the week 1 video lectures. Please feel free to email me anytime you have questions or you want to set up a meeting, and you can see my email address there. So thanks for watching, and please go on to video 2 for week 1 when you have a chance.